Hey guys, I am back. It's Cheryl. I'm basking in the glow, and I am the CEO and founder of Glow Global Events. So the link will be in the comments below. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome back. A place for entrepreneurs and event planners to build and grow your business. Today I am talking about virtual events. Since the pandemic hit the US in March of 2020, Glow has planned over 30 virtual events. And so today I'm giving you my top 5 tools, tips. I'm going to throw in some best practices there on how to plan a virtual event. First of all, go get some paper and pen because you're going to need to take notes. I'll give you a sec. Okay, how to plan a virtual event. First, you need to understand that everything that you have planned live, you can actually take to a virtual event. So the types of some of the events that we've been involved with over these last few months: outdoor festivals, telethons, silent auctions, town halls, networking events where it includes chats and social interactions, social events or cocktails. We've done gifting and unboxing events, and that was really fun. We did a few weeks ago. Scavenger hunts, but within each of those events, you want to make sure that you have audience engagement. So whether that's a poll or a Q&A. My number one top tip: the technology you use is important. We have done online meetings and webinars, and some of those platforms that you are familiar with include WebEx, JoinMe, Skype, GoToMeeting, Zoom, and Google Hangout. Those are just a few. There are a lot others out there. Second tip: live streaming. You'll have to make the decision whether you want to live stream. So much of your event can be live streamed now. You have Facebook Live, YouTube Live. YouTube is actually a great utility where you can provide links and resources to your attendees. It also has a donate button. So even if you're a nonprofit organization having a fundraiser, you can include the donate button now into your YouTube platform. Twitter Live, Instagram Live, or LinkedIn Live. So all of those options are available to you. You don't have to use them, but one of the things that we like about the live is that it increases your engagement. And so more people, even if you just have 20 people on, the way social media usually works is people can see if their friends are on or see when you posted live. So you'll have people come in and out, but that increases your activity and your engagement. Number 3, the platforms that you use. And so you might be asking, why do you want to use a platform, and why should you use a platform? We like using platforms because it takes your attendees to an environment. It gives them somewhere to go outside of just sending a Zoom link. And so we'll talk about assessing your needs a little bit later on, but you really want to send your attendees to an environment, to a place to go. Some of the platforms that we've been working with over the last few months include Event Farm. They've done a great job with creating a city. They call it their campus. And so I'll list all of these links in our comment section below. Hopin, Quantasy, Run the World, Conference Compass, Meeting Play, Crowd Compass, Socio, Eventfinity, Umbrella, Buzz Nation. Those are some of the platforms that we've used. The reason why it's been so many is because every client has different needs. And so again, you really need to assess your needs. There are also auction platforms. We've used Givergy, OneCause, GiveSmart, Snowball, and there are a couple of more platforms, but those are just some of the ones that we've used and we think are very successful for you to have a simple online auction platform. I mentioned earlier, assess your needs. That is one of the 4 top tips that you need to make sure that you handle for your event. Because your strategy should be the attendee journey. Where is your attendee going to go? What is going to be their experience? What is their journey? And so with each of the type of events that I listed at the top, you want to make sure that what their journey is going to be seamless and go back to your brand goals. So some of the things when you're assessing your event, is it going to be live or pre-recorded? We actually pre-record some sessions and then broadcast them live. So it's kind of our pre-live that we like to say. So you need to make the determination whether you'll do that. Sometimes the pre-recorded sessions can give you an opportunity to clean it up in post-production, and then that post video is then broadcast live to your attendees. So there's some ways to even clean up and make your videos look a lot more professional. Are your attendees going to need exhibitors? Do you want them to engage with exhibitors? Do you need push notifications in the platform, in the app? Do you want in-app chats? In-app chats, say that fast a couple of times. Do you want your attendees to communicate via apps? Or are they going to submit polls and Q&A? So these are some of the things that you need to really look through. Assess your needs. Make sure that everything that your attendees expect, you expect is going to happen when you assess your needs. The other top five thing is when you're assessing your needs is creating your pricing strategy. Is your event going to be free? Are you going to use this as an opportunity to introduce your event as a virtual event? Will you have a VIP attendee ticket price that will give your attendees access to the PowerPoint slides? Do you want your attendees to have access to your exhibitors? Will those exhibitors require one-on-one meetings? Or you can monetize your event by having those exhibitors or sponsors pay. So you really want to look at your sponsorship management, your exhibitor management, and how they will engage with your attendees. I said I was going to throw in a couple of best practices as well. So that was my top 5. These are the best practices, and I'll include a lot of these links and companies in the comments below. But one of the first things that you should do, one of the best practices that you should do is get a music license. If you are going to play any music, if you're going to rebroadcast any music, you need to get a license. You could use royalty-free music. You could use royalty-free free music. YouTube actually has a royalty-free library that you can use if you're playing any music before, during, or after your event. You can also purchase an ASCAP or a BMI license. Those are pretty cost prohibitive. We use those in our live events, and so you need to make sure that any rebroadcast of music, you get a license. So these artists work very hard to create music for us, and so we want to make sure that we are protecting their rights by getting a licensed music. Also know that in Instagram, if you play your song longer than 90 seconds, they will shut your live down completely. And so YouTube will pull your video if you do not have the proper license for music. So make sure, number one, that if you're broadcasting or rebroadcasting any music, that you get the proper licenses or have the proper music. You also, to that end, you want to have your speakers, your performers, any talent that's going to be a part of your event, you want to make sure they sign a video release form. I am going to include a sample of that video release form via link in the comments below. But even though I'm attaching that, you also want to check with your lawyer. A couple of weeks ago, we were supposed to have a live event. The artist had already signed the video release form. We were only going to play snippets for rebroadcast, but because that event was now going to be a virtual event, we needed to get another layer of video release forms. And so that delayed us a little bit because the artist, we need to make sure that we went back and the artist was protected because we were going to then rebroadcast her performance over YouTube. So it was a slight delay. But that went from a live event to a virtual event. So you want to make sure that you have your video release form, not only for your talent or any performers, but any speakers. If you are rebroadcasting to YouTube or any other platforms where this is going to live, you need to make sure that you've gotten permission from your speakers. Also, keep in mind, when you are rebroadcasting live, there is a 30-second delay. There is a 30-second delay in rebroadcasting. So you always want to make sure if there's any Q&A that you're compensating for that 30-second delay. So be mindful of that. You also want to create a graphics package for background or title slides. Now, YouTube does it very simple. Some of the other platforms does it very simple. They will have your name and the screen there at the bottom. But if you want something a little bit more professional and a little bit more packaged, you need to create a graphics package. So our graphic designer creates that package, and then we plug that in on the back end. I actually might do another section, another session about how to add your graphics package. We actually use Wirecast and then embed that into our YouTube and our Zoom link. So that gets a little bit more complicated, but you should really think about a graphics package so you can have background and title slides. You should also be using social media. It's an opportunity to grow your audience. You want to make sure prior to the event you're sending out emails, and you should be doing this with a live event, but now that it's virtual, it gives you an opportunity to grow your audience. We did an event a few months ago that they typically only had 200 people attend live. We actually doubled that audience. One, probably because everyone was at home, but also we were very purposeful in getting out those social media teaser campaigns and announcements. You also want to create a run of show. I say this all the time. I'm going to do another session on run of shows, because your run of show is everything that's happening from the minute your guests enter the room. And virtually, when I say enter the room, it's actually click your link or come into your platform. The difference between a run of show and your production timeline, the production timeline is everything that happens from that morning. The calls you need to make, the arrival time, the rehearsal times. The run of show specifically is what's happening for your show. So it's showtime, it starts, you need to have a run of show. But like I said, I'll mention that in another session later on. If you're broadcasting live, this is an opportunity to include links and provide resources. So if you're doing an event and it's YouTube live, you may want to let your people know, let your attendees know that there is an online auction going on. And so what that link will be can also be included in your live link. So there's an opportunity to provide your resources there. You want to give your viewers as much information as you can. Another really great thing, once your audience enters the room or the virtual room, you want to announce who they are or give a shout out to people who are joining. So say, for example, if you see someone's name logging in, just say, hey, I see Cheryl just joined us. Or another icebreaker could be, hey, where are you guys calling in from today? I'd like to find out. We sent this out, a national campaign. It was a global campaign. Put it in the chat where you're coming from. And then you can go through and say, oh, hey, we see Cheryl's joined us from New York. So that's a really great icebreaker. It also includes your virtual attendees to make them feel like they're there and they're being recognized. Also, you'll also want to have a place to handle all of your event questions. So whether that's someone monitoring an email, or you can set up a Google Voice number so you could take those calls, but you always want, people will always have questions. You want to have a place where those questions can be answered promptly. We also recommend using a moderator or an MC. The moderator or an MC is going to keep things moving along. We also recommend that your CEO or your president of your organization, it may be you, always give opening comments. You always want to open the day or open your session and be very purposeful on why people are there, greet them when they're there, and sometimes the president and the CEO of an organization really make people feel that they are there for a reason, and it helps with your brand consistency. One of the other things that we do for every event that you should be thinking about or actually doing, I'll create another session about how to create your speaker toolkit. But you need a speaker toolkit. That speaker toolkit is going to lay out all the expectations of what a speaker, what's needed of a speaker and what their expectations are. It's going to give them the details about the event, the details on when they should log in, whether it's 30 minutes or 45 minutes before an event. You want to make sure that your speakers are there, that they've rehearsed the day of the event. So you want to make sure your speaker toolkit has that information. The speaker toolkit will also talk about the equipment that they use. And so this will all happen prior to the rehearsal, but you want to make sure whether someone's using their iPhone, their iPad, their computer. We also list in that speaker toolkit something as simple to wipe your screen before the event starts, the day of the event. We also cover your webcam angle. Your camera should be close to eye level as possible. It should be approximately 20 inches from your desk. So even if that means placing your camera or your computer on a stack of books, you want that eye level at every time, and you want your speaker's eye level to be consistent. You also want to think about lighting. You can consider a light ring, but you should also make sure that the light is toward your face and not behind you. So if you're sitting in front of a window, perhaps swivel around, but we also let our speakers know that their light source should always be in front of them. Consider your space. You want your space to be clean and clutter-free so people can focus on you and not the clutter. The speaker toolkit also gives recommendations for your wardrobe to wear neutral colors or something that's light or pleasing to the eye. You also want to make sure that your speakers know to get fully dressed in case they have to stand up. You never know the circumstances of someone standing up, so they should be fully dressed. Makeup should complement your natural beauty. Now, most women can probably throw on a powder or something light. I know men may not want to do that, but if you do, and even if you're a woman and you don't want to wear makeup, make sure you do a light blot to make sure there's no oiliness. You just want, no one noticing that, you're completely oily or you're perspiring. Turn on your air conditioning even. Make eye contact with your audience. Look at the camera instead of your screen. And this is one of the reasons why we rehearse. I know people are so used to looking at the screen to see how they look. We don't want that. We want you to engage with your audience and look at your screen each time. The speaker toolkit also gives tips for your presentation, the visual presentation. So if any of the speakers are using PowerPoint, the image size should be a widescreen HD in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So make sure that when they're creating their PowerPoint presentations, it's in that ratio. The text size should be about 60 minimum. You don't want the slides too cluttered. And then the text clarity, you want to make sure you're pulling a font that is very clear to read. We like to use Franklin Gothic, I think it is, but just make sure that the font is very readable. We also want to make sure that our speakers use high-res images and photos. We don't want any blurry images, so every step of the way, we want a professional product. The release form is actually also included in that speaker toolkit. You should also create a checklist. So all of the speakers that have sent in their form, you can easily checklist them. Before the event, you can identify and know who did not sign their release form and get that video release form before you run or broadcast your event. You'll also want to rehearse. You should be rehearsing before you bring any speakers in, before your client is there. You always want to make sure that you're rehearsing all of your technology before you invite any others there. That way you can troubleshoot anything that happens or anything that can go wrong. Then you're going to want to rehearse with your speakers. You're going to want to rehearse with your client. You're going to want to rehearse with any talent. And that rehearsal goes between audio, whatever aspects of your event is happening, you want to make sure that you are rehearsing. When planning, you want to be proactive with your communications. You want to be prepared. You want to be specific about your mission critical needs. And then you want to thank your attendees. We've been thanking attendees for actually RSVPing. This is a new space for a lot of us. So we thank them after they RSVP, and then we thank them after the event. You always want to thank your attendees and your stakeholders for attending. And then finally, you need and you must stay up to date on your city, county, state, and federal COVID-19 planned openings. Openings and closings are happening daily, and you do want to provide at the top of your event some current event as what's going on. And so you should be able to give updates of any COVID pandemic or any current events at all. Thank you. That is it for today. I hope you learned a lot. Ask any questions in the comments below. Now I better get glowing.